Hello, beautiful alchemist. Welcome to Reiki Radio. I am your host, Yolanda, and happy June. I know so many of you are glad to be feeling the energy of this new month already. And with that, don't forget that the Energy of the Month video is available on my YouTube channel. So just go to YouTube and look up Reiki Radio. You will find the Energy of June video there. Also, if you are a subscriber to the Alchemical newsletter, which you can subscribe to through my website, you will receive the video as well as more information later on today. Okay, so I can't tell you how excited I am to be sharing with you all a new platform. I think if you've been following me for some time, I think it's pretty obvious here on Reiki Radio how much it means to me to contribute to the community, to share teachers and practitioners and authors that really can support all of us in understanding various aspects of this work from different lenses and points of view. I love that we come together in this community to learn and truly grow through these exchanges. And so I have met and worked with incredible teachers and practitioners over the years. Some of them, even I've had the honor of teaching myself. And I've always had in the back of my mind that I would love to create a space where more teachers and practitioners could be featured. And I really wanted to help some of you get out there and share your voice, share your work. Now, I'm sure you can relate if you are a practitioner or thinking of starting your own business. It can be overwhelming sometimes of where do I start and how do I do all of this? What do I want it to look like? Let alone, just what it is you're going to offer, but then the setup of website and again, how you're going to get yourself out there. So I finally have decided to make time to work on a platform to support the community in this way, offering a space for teachers and practitioners to not only be found, but also to share more, versions of what this experience in the realm of spirituality is like. What is it like when you are practicing Reiki, when you are practicing meditation, all of these different modalities? What really happens and what can we learn from the people who are having these direct experiences? So the new platform is called the Reiki Class, and that website will launch on June 11th. So please mark your calendar. On June 11th, go to thereikiclass.com and check out what you can learn from more people in the community and what their offerings are, what they have upcoming. And of course, the new podcast called Awakening Airwaves that will feature several different shows from different teachers and practitioners. And today you will meet another one. So I just want to let you know very quickly, Awakening Airwaves is already available on your favorite podcast platform. So after this episode, if you could take a moment just to go wherever you are listening to Reiki Radio and look up Awakening Airwaves. Follow the show. It'll only take you a second, but we really appreciate the support. And again, this is a communal effort for all of us to have more accessibility to information and tools and tips and insights and inspirations that support us on these beautiful paths. So I hope you enjoy Awakening Airwaves. We also have a YouTube channel, so you can go to YouTube as well and look up Awakening Airwaves, and please follow us over there. So much more to come. I'll tell you all about it as we get closer to the launch on the full moon, June 11th. But for today, as I mentioned, you will meet another contributor, and her name is Serena. Serena is the founder of Soleil to Moon, and she's going to share her incredible journey into spiritual exploration, including her own path into Reiki. Now, interestingly, Serena's first exposure to this realm of work was at a very young age. Her mother had a massage school, and Serena had exposure that way. But, like so many of us, she went through her rebellious teenage years, and then she had some other significant shifts in her 30s, which I'm sure so many of you can relate to. So her story really is a mirroring of the intricate weaving of life that so many of us experience. And now Serena is a Reiki practitioner. She has fallen in love with yoga philosophy, and she offers these really amazing sound healing experiences in these beautifully decorated tents. She'll tell you more about it, but I think it is so inspirational. And to be honest, I can't wait to go have one of the experiences in her tents. But she's also a talented oracle reader. And in fact, if you are subscribed to my alchemical news, you might remember a few months ago, she offered free readings to people in the community, and some of you took her up on it. So that is Serena, and I hope that you all love learning from her today. Be sure to go to her website to learn more about her work at soleil-2-moon.com. The link to her website is below. You can also follow Serena on Instagram at the_magic, MAGICK_within. Again, the links for everything is down in the show description. So enjoy this beautiful episode. Again, happy June, and I will see you on the other side. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Reiki Radio. Today we are here with the beautiful Serena of soleil-to-moon.com. Serena, I can't wait to hear more about your story because we've known each other for a while now, but I don't think I've heard your story entirely. But I just want the audience to know we have some exciting information about how you will be sharing with the community to help us on our journey. But first, just thank you for being here.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. So thank you.
Yeah, I'm excited to learn more about you today. I know you have some fascinating experiences with even what you work with, things that have helped you in your path and your awakening. So we'll get into all of it. So first of all, my love, just want to start with how did this connection to spiritual work, how did all of this just really start for you?
Well, really, I have to go back to my childhood because I grew up in kind of a dramatic, stressful environment as a child. But my mother, when I was about 7 or 8, had started working in massage therapy. And she ultimately ended up buying and purchasing a massage therapy school. So during that time, that was really my safe space. I was spending time at her school, and she would do 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off. And so during that 2 weeks on, she'd have these day classes that were all day long, and then she'd have evening classes. And so if I was in school, then after school, I'd go to her school. And when I was out for summer, I was always there. So I really got to absorb the teachings of what she was offering there. All the different styles of massage therapy, whether it was deep tissue or shiatsu. And there was all these, Swedish massage. And I say that because it was so nice because I got to be a model for the students too, because they needed people to practice on. So I got to be on the receiving end a lot too. But one of the things that really stands out for me during that time is listening to my mother, but also all the people that came through her class. Because as people would come through the class, I'd meet people from all different styles and walks of life. I had my first psychic reading through my mom's massage therapy class. My first exposure to essential oils and how it uplifted my mood, how it made me feel was at a very young age through my mom's massage therapy class. And then I got to experience cupping, and this is like back in the 80s. So this was like way before this was a thing like it is now. Like my mom, when she did cupping, it wasn't like now where you have the suction cups and have like the air thing that pulls it out. She used baby food jars and would like light a match in it and put it on someone's back and, move around. And anyway, so it was really cool to get to explore and experience that part. And I feel like it really kind of set the foundation for my exposure to the holistic side of the gifts and the therapies.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's an interesting, I think, experience and exposure, especially being so young. So, did your curiosity extend outside of being in that environment where did you ask your mom questions when you all were driving home? Were you continuing the curiosity?
Not so much when we were driving home, but my curiosity really would grow in her actual class. So she used to hand out these handouts that she'd pass out at the end of the 2 week session where the students would have to do a physical massage that they would do on my mother. And then it would be on whoever the instructor was, which it was my mom at the time. But anyways, and then they'd also have a written test. And the written test included all this anatomy. It was having to name all the bones, all the muscles, and then the movement portion. And so I remember as a child sitting there with the packets and I'd practice, and I used to be able to name, not anymore, but I used to be able to name
Wow.
the majority of the muscles and all the bones and everything, and had a good understanding of the movement portion. And so that was where it really helped kind of like click, you know, because like I said, the way my childhood was and some of the experiences that I had were very difficult, as were for my mom. So that was also my mom's like safe space. So it helped her kind of move out of the environment that was difficult. And so that was very therapeutic for both of us. And then
Right.
being able to see her touch and help so many people, and then the students that she was helping, and then going to these festivals and fairs and setting up her massage table or her massage chair, and working on people and getting to experience that was very cool too.
I love you point that out in your story, the part of your mom may have been going through a lot. And, even what you were experiencing at the time, it may have been a lot. And yet she was still able to share this work and hold space for people in a way that was very healing and loving. And the reason I point that out is because a lot of times in this realm, people think you have to be completely healed, whatever that's supposed to mean, before you can support other people. But some of the best healers, really, it's from direct experience, like whatever we have had to work through, whatever it is that we've had to heal through, is what helps us hold space for others and have a deeper sense of compassion and understanding. So I love that you mentioned that with what your mom was doing and also having other aspects going on in life. So as you grew up, let's say fast forwarding to, late teens, early 20s, had you already decided this was the path you wanted to go, or were you going more of a traditional path at that point?
No, I became a very rebellious teenager. So I was kind of in my party girl stage, and I really kind of pushed anything that was healing away, but
Mm,
also was pushing a lot of people away during that time too.
yeah.
Um, I had a lot of anger as a child, so that was part of the, working through that too. But yeah, I didn't go down that path during that time. It wasn't really until my 30s that it started to come full circle for me.
Ah, so what happened then? What happened?
So I was in my 30s, and I have two children now, but my oldest was the only one I had at the time. She was younger. And I was working full time, working remotely from home. And I felt like I was doing this balancing act with life between my child. I was really involved in her school. So I was a PTO mom. I also was a room mom. I was trying to do everything that was the quote unquote what you're supposed to do on the path, you know?
Right.
And I found myself just really unhappy and having a lot of days of, why am I here? How did I get here? What am I doing? Type thing. My job was extremely stressful at the time. It wasn't the best environment. And I, at the time, was really big on my fitness. So I was working out, doing weight training. But then in addition, I was also doing some yoga, or what I knew as yoga at the time, which is really just the asana portion, not any of the other, meditation or anything. And so I had gone into a yoga class at the gym, went into it just feeling really overwhelmed and really just emotionally drained from the day and from my work and everything. And came out of it just feeling amazing. And I remember it was at the end of class, just laying in Shavasana and having this moment of just like pure calm and bliss, and just having this feeling of like, I want more of this.
Yeah.
I need this, and I want to share this with others. How do I do that? So that was really what sparked the training in me and wanting to, go do training after that.
So I do want to ask you about yoga teacher training and what that was like for you, because I also, interestingly, my introduction to yoga was many years before I did training. So I was in my 20s the first time I took a yoga class. And at the time, I was in a very stressful relationship. And how I felt in those classes, I was trying to think right now, like hindsight, it was the breath work, the direction of my mind in the class. I wasn't focused on, my worries and this and this. It was just a space for me, and it felt so cleansing, and it was beautiful. And then fast forward many years later, when I took yoga teacher training, it was much different than what I thought it was going to be. So before we get into the training itself, I just want to ask you, in those early stages of taking classes, can you feel into or remember what about it specifically like made you feel a sense of calm? What about the practice was
So
activating in you?
before the training and the actual,
Yeah,
really, it didn't happen until that Shavasana, until laying
Shavasana.
Shavasana. And it was because it was such an intense movement class. It was a yoga flow class. And I remember just really sweating in that room. And I think that with just moving your energy, that was what I was needing, because even though I was doing weight training and everything, there was something about being on the mat and just really moving through those poses. And
Hmm.
then coming to the very end where you have that cool down and laying there in Shavasana and just having that, like, okay, I get to breathe, you
Yeah.
know? So I feel like that's where it was really that peaceful moment of like, oh, okay. So yeah.
I love that so much. And it's interesting because it reminds me of how in energy work, we talk a lot about making room to integrate,
Yes.
because a lot of times we get so excited and we just want to consume. We want to keep taking classes, ingesting, learning everything, but we never take a pause to let
Yeah.
it all just sink in. Yeah. So it's incredible that something so simple was really what was so impactful for you.
And
So
I
me, it
laughed.
was the breath, and you, it was savasana. What'd you say?
Oh, sorry. I said, and I laughed because you're absolutely correct, because I've
Yeah.
definitely done the consuming classes. I have taken probably about 10 different trainings.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I think we all do it, but listen to Serena, make sure you take time to integrate. That's a beautiful even analogy of this. So you decide this peacefulness, this calm is something you really want to help others to experience, and then you sign up for yoga teacher training. Now I have to ask you, before you get into doing it, did you know what was going to be in the class, in the training? Did you have any idea, and was it any different than what you expected?
oh, it was 100 times different than
Yeah.
what I expected. I had only known yoga as the movement portion, the
Yes.
asana. And I knew that there was obviously like breath work, meditation, but I didn't know beyond that. So jumping into the training that I went into was extremely different than what I expected, because the training that I chose ended up being perfect for me at the time. It was very heavy in yoga philosophy.
Yes.
That was something that I didn't know at the time, but would come near and dear to my heart and be a love for me that would really open those, gates for me as far as my spirituality.
Yeah. I did. So it was hatha yoga was the training that I did. And the people who owned the yoga studio, the husband was actually, I don't know if you call it retired, but prior he was a monk. I don't know if he retired from that or what. But anyway, there were a lot of elements too that I didn't know, because I also was only familiar with asana, or the movement, the positions. And the first day of my training, people were literally in tears just from some of the things that we were doing and talking about. And I was like, whoa, I did not know this is, yeah. So it was so much different. So could you talk a little bit about, though, what it was like, what stood out to you in yoga teacher training, very specifically? Like, was there anything about the teachings
Yeah.
that helped you go deeper with yourself?
Yeah. So two parts to that. Yes, I would definitely say my exposure to Hindu mythology, because that was something that I had never been familiar with previously.
Yeah.
Into my teens, my mother had remarried, and my mom and my stepfather were extremely religious and involved in the Christian church. My dad worked at the church. I would attend, Sunday church with them. I tried to force myself into that and did the whole Bible study route and just never found that connection piece. But during my 200 hour, I really felt that piece with the meditations and with the teachings, getting into the yamas and the niyamas, as we explored the 8 limbs of yoga,
Yeah.
and really understanding and getting into the social ethics and how we are in our outer world, how we are relating to people, how we're moving through life, and then also looking at us and how we're, studying, doing self-study, really trying to open ourselves up. It was all these things that really helped me on that, rabbit hole down of spirituality. But the Hindu mythology, like that really was very interesting to me. I loved the stories. I loved how it tied in with the poses.
Yeah.
So that was something that really got me excited. Yeah. So I think that answers.
Yes, no, 100% it does. I think it'll be interesting for people who probably had the same assumption we did that, like, if you go to yoga teacher training, it's just you're going to learn how to go deeper into the different postures. Like, no, 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 that is not. No, it's incredible what you actually do learn and the different layers of what the system of yoga, I'll say, is really about and what the true focus within that is. So after you did the 200 hour, were you planning on teaching yoga or where were you at by the end of that?
So the 200 hour, it was towards the end of it that I decided I was going to do my 300 hour. And that
Okay.
was because I had the first time I had ever experienced dropping in meditation, which for the listeners, if they don't know what that is, that's when, the way I explain it is I literally like feel like this just weight, like going down. And then just there's no time. You're just there with the universe and just you have this, I don't know how to explain it, but this amazing feeling that I experienced in meditation. So guess what? I was like, yep, we're doing the 300 hour now. So
Yeah.
that's kind of what took me down that path. I was like, I'm not ready to teach yet. I want more of this,
Yeah.
So I wanted to explore that more. Unfortunately, the school that I was going to, which actually ended up being perfect too, how everything worked out. So it worked out as it was meant to. But the school that I was going to, the 300 hour class, they didn't have enough interest. So that fell through. So I had to look at other schools in the area, and there wasn't any schools that really allowed me the time frame that I needed with my job and with my kiddo and all that, except for one. And so I chose the school based off of that. Little did I know that would end up being like just the perfect fit, because that also was opposite of what I thought. I thought I was going to be going into another training that was going to be very heavy on yoga philosophy, and that it'd be really organized like how my other training was, where we'd be getting homework assignments and reading books and, all these things, that would span out. And what it turned into was this amazing, appetizer variety of classes. I took Sanskrit classes. I did japa mala bean making,
Wow.
all different styles of asana movement portions. I found Ashtanga and Kundalini
Mm.
were that spoke to me. That got me really lit up and excited. I'm learning about the chakras. We explored so much in that class. So it was really interesting and very cool to get to experience, just little picks of everything, because that's how you figure out, what calls to your soul and what, kind of calls you down the path. And then
Right.
going down that might open up something else. So, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's incredible. It's funny again, my mind is just going to how you I don't know if anybody go, maybe some people do. Like maybe if their friend told them, like I did tell a friend of mine, I was like, honey, if you're thinking of yoga teacher training, go to this place. This is what they crack open. This is what you're going to study. But I imagine a lot of people go into that experience quite surprised with what you actually learn and what the points of focus may be. So did the yoga teacher training, did it change you in any way? Like hindsight, did you have any experiences where, because this started out you just looking for this peace and this calm, and
Mhm.
then you said you had the experience in meditation where you finally dropped, like kind of had that true surrender where you have that experience of spaciousness and I'm one with all there is, which is quite altering to our understanding of our function, right? And then now you did the 300 hour. At this point, how were you starting to see yourself? Were you kind of looking at life differently? What happened?
Well, so again, towards the end of my training, so it happened at the end of my 200 hour with the meditation. And then towards the end of my 300 hour, I ended up having this amazing experience in a Kundalini class. At that point, it had been almost a year, I think, that I had been meditating every single day. And I don't remember what I was at, but I think I was between 20 to 45 minutes, every day that I meditate. And I was also doing a lot of movement. And my energy system was, cleaner, I would say, just because of the movement, because of meditations, because I wasn't consuming, the things I had used to, eat. So,
Yes.
so as I was in this Kundalini class, I had this moment where, towards the end of the session, the class, as we're moving through, I felt this intense swirling in my body. And it felt like my energy just like going. Like the only way I could describe it is like if you take like a glass bottle of something carbonated and you're like shaking it up and you feel that like where it wants to combust and you're getting ready to untwist the top,
Yes.
oh, this is gonna blow. That was the feeling I had within my body. And
Wow.
I felt like, oh my gosh, like what is about to happen? And then all of a sudden it was just like tears, uncontrollable tears. And I'm not a person that usually gets super emotional in front of others. And I couldn't control it. It was just like the waterworks, just constant flow. And I remember there was another student that I had been in other classes with, and she wasn't practicing. She was actually sitting against the side of the wall taking notes. And she's like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "I don't know. Like this is crazy. I don't know
Yeah.
what I'm feeling," because everything just felt like so like it just felt like so much in that moment. And so I had waited until the end of the class. I, finished up and everything, and I asked the teacher if she could talk, and I talked her outside and I explained what I experienced. And I swear she looked at me like a deer in the headlights, and there wasn't like a response or feedback or anything that like helped put me at ease. And I was like, I'm going crazy. So what's funny about the timing of this is now I understand what was going on, but at the time I didn't. But that was my spiritual awakening and just a huge energy shift for me. And at timing wise was crazy because that next day I was flying out to California and I had my daughter with me and we were going out for the summer to stay with my family. And I remember being at the airport and being on the plane and just feeling like I had these energy tentacles that were touching everything. And
Yeah.
I could feel so much of everything around me, the world around me. And I'm talking not just humans, but like I felt like even from animals and plants, like I just felt this like intense sensitivity with things.
Yeah.
And I was like, what is going on? Like somebody needs to explain this to me because I don't understand. Because I hadn't explored spiritual awakenings or anything or read about any of that
Yeah.
portion. So I was like, what is going on? But yeah, so that's what came out of that class.
Yeah, well, I have to ask you because, listening to you the way that you're describing it, a lot of people, those kinds of experiences, it does kind of scare them because there may not be an answer that they're aware of, right? And especially if no one tells you clearly what is going on with you or, oh, this is normal, don't worry. A lot of people will jump to worry, like, what did I just do? I mean, something much more subtle, I think about the first time I realized I was feeling a sense of peace. My initial thought was that I broke something in myself. Like, I was like, wait, I was so unfamiliar with the feeling that I thought I like messed something up in my system, right? So our analytical mind is always looking for the reason and the answer. But here you go, off to California.
Yeah.
Did what you were feeling, like the sensitivity that started to arise, is that what made you curious? Did you do your own research, and where did that lead you?
Curious with
Like
the
curious about what happened? Yeah.
so I actually how I kind of like figured out what happened was from talking with my husband. I had a couple not so great experiences while I was at my mom's. I think my field was way too open because I didn't understand what was going on with my energy field. So because of that, I left myself exposed to things.
Yeah.
I had an experience with somebody following me as I was walking through my mom's neighborhood, like a truck just like literally like going slow behind me. I turned the street, they turned the street. I was so uncomfortable because my mom lived in this area that it was like a lot of ranch homes and everything. So it was
Yeah.
like spaced out homes. And I had her dog that's like half bulldog that I couldn't just like pick up and carry because she was heavy as heck. And I was just like, this is crazy. Like, what's going on? And I was just like, oh, some creepo. But I was telling my husband about it. And I would notice, like, as I would go into places, like, just certain things were happening, certain things as far as certain energies were being drawn to me too.
Yes.
Almost like I had this light on. I know that
Right.
sounds crazy, but that's what it kind of reminded me of.
Mhm.
And so it was from both ends, like dark energies too.
Yeah.
And while I was at my mom's house in the evening time, I even had this very vivid experience with a dark entity.
Mm.
And I had to call it out and tell it to leave. And I had to
Yeah.
be forceful and everything else,
Yep.
which I know for a lot of people probably sounds crazy. But yeah, that was what was happening. And I was telling my husband, and thank God my husband was like super open-minded. So he was like, well, like it sounds like you have a lot going on with like lightness. He goes, I'm sure you're attracting the dark too.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's good. That's a good point. And so then I start Googling and, looking on my phone and looking on my computer and trying to figure out like what's going on. And I talked to people at the crystal shop in my mom's, neighborhood. And it was just interesting because I think I kind of put the pieces together from also going to the crystal shop because it was the first time that I really felt the crystals too, like felt the crystals kind of like talk to me, if you will, like
Yeah.
the vibration of the crystals and everything. So yeah, that was,
It's really interesting, Serena, because a lot of what you're saying, a couple of things. One, I love that you point out, even with the encounter with this entity, how you had to really be in your authority and tell it, get out of my space. I like that just because a lot of people don't know that we have that authority around what's in our space. And you usually learn things about that, like in intuitive development, psychic development, those kinds of classes. But a lot of people don't know. And so they'll be afraid of encountering anything because they don't know that they have the authority to, you know, not allow everything into their space. However, listening to you as well reminds me of like why I love podcasting, why I love that we get to have these conversations because there's someone listening, right? That may be in the space right now that you were in then, but because you went through it, you can give some clarity to what someone else may experience. And it's so beautiful. A lot of times so many of us go through these experiences kind of flailing. We don't know, no one told us. But
yeah.
then the beauty is we figure it out and then we can pass that wisdom on of like, oh, that's what you're going through. Well, yes, this is how it may pan out. This is what might help you, all of those sorts of things. So, did this make you more curious about energy? Like, how did you, because at this point, in case anyone listening isn't clear, you hadn't even gotten into Reiki yet. This
Oh,
was all right.
yeah, this is all through my yoga teacher trainings and stuff.
Yes, yoga teacher training and the experience, that awakening experience for you. So, how then did you come across Reiki? Was it research or somehow it came to you?
So it came to me through, well, it was actually a timing while I was at my mom's house out there in California. I was also enrolled, not just my 300-hour, I was also enrolled in another training. And that particular training had a lot of like little guided meditations that you could listen to. And I remember one of the meditations was on past life regression. And I came out of that meditation and when I opened my eyes and it had my meditation, that particular experience, the past life experience had nothing to do with my hands, had nothing to do with healing with my hands.
Mhm.
But I remember when I opened my eyes, looking down at my hands and seeing my mom's hands
Wow.
and not physically seeing them, but seeing them in the sense that they were my hands, but they were like healing hands like hers, if that
Mhm.
makes sense. And I just remember like through my third eye, it was like healing energy. And so I was like, okay, well, for me, like Reiki wasn't necessarily the name that came up, but I knew that I want to do something with my hands and energy. And there is a lady that I had just, I can't remember if I just started renting the space from her or if I had been there a couple months at this point, but I had been renting a space with the intention of teaching yoga classes or instructing yoga classes at the area, the space I was renting from. And so I had reached out to her because I knew that she did some energy work. And I said, when I get back to town, could we sit down and talk? I would love it if you can mentor me and if I could work under you because I really want to learn this.
Yeah.
And so she said, yeah, let's meet up. And so then when I got back home, I sat down with her and explained my experience of what happened in California and explained everything, as far as what I was feeling, but also, what I was being drawn to and pulled to and kind of like being steered, like go this way type
Yeah.
thing. And so she said, yeah, that she would mentor me and we worked together. And we worked together for almost a year. But at the very beginning, when I did that, I knew because of Virgo sun and how I am and how I like things very, lined up and organized and everything. I knew that I also wanted like a more organized training as well. So I also signed up for online Reiki training, which I did along with doing this other one. So I was basically in 4 trainings, if you really think about it, during that time frame. But yeah, so I learned energy work through her, but then also learned the energy work in the Reiki itself through an online training.
Wow. So once you started learning about energy and, how to work with it intentionally, what did that open up for you at that point? Because prior to this, everything was spontaneous for you.
Yeah,
It wasn't like you were intending really to do anything energetically speaking. So
yeah.
how did this start to, I guess, like, what did it bring into your awareness in terms of how you started thinking about energy at that point?
So I think as far as how I start thinking about it, really kind of opened up before the energy work and more with my spiritual awakening.
Hmm.
Like that really was what changed my thoughts of how I felt things in the world.
Yeah.
Um, like I said, it felt like almost like a light switch, just like all of a sudden stuff was on and it was like, oh my gosh. So when I went into the actual energy work training, um, I think the only thing that probably felt a little different was the surrendering to the process, which still, obviously, like we all are working on ourselves every day. Like that's still something that, occasionally will come up for me is the surrender part. I feel like I'm much better now than I was, 6 years ago or, however long, 7 years ago. But yeah, that definitely helped because knowing that I need to kind of step outside my mind and be able to trust and surrender through the process of
Yeah.
doing these healing modalities and just allowing it to flow through and that you're not doing it, you're channeling it. So you're, in that trust state. So
Wow. Yeah, I mean, it is interesting. And it's funny hearing you say how long it's been for you, because a lot of people at the beginning of whatever we're doing, if it is an experience that is, you know, so incredible to us, so different, and we become so curious. A lot of times we, again, like you took many classes, so did I, so did many people, and we just want to understand it all. And we're just so excited, like as if time is going to run out. And it is interesting, no matter how much we take in, it's still going to be this ongoing unfolding. I mean, it's going to take years of really processing and understanding. And the truth is, in this work, even when you think you understand something, a year from now, you're going to think of it or understand it differently than you thought you did when you thought you got it, right? So it's a lot of fun. It's interesting in that way. So I will say, when I've known you now at least for a couple of years, and I know that your, we'll say your curiosities have extended even beyond just Reiki and everything you shared today. I didn't know this part of your story, but I know that you also got very interested in like herbs and sound healing and oracle cards. And you actually, some of you may recognize Serena because she offered to our community earlier this year free oracle readings, and some of you took her up on it. So Could you talk about that? I mean, did it just turn into this buffet of spirituality? You're like sound healing check. Like what?
Well, the sound, so that sound healing portion, I don't know if it was like 6 months after I had been doing the Reiki, but that came through. It was something that I knew I wanted to do that portion too.
Mhm.
Just because I liked being on the receiving end, everything that I like being on the receiving end, I'm like, I want to help others with this too, you know?
Yes.
So for me, the sound baths, came into fruition with again just perfect alignment with teachers that are brought into our lives during the right time
Yeah.
because I had this wonderful teacher uh, that just so happened to be teaching at my 300-hour school, and he was doing a 35-hour training session, and so I had enrolled for that and got to learn. And what I liked about it too, it was like perfect for the heady part of me too, because we learned about like brain entrainment and how it affects like our brain waves. And, whether we're playing the gong or whether we're playing the bowls, and there's different pieces that it kind of hits, trying to hit those theta states and everything.
Yes.
Those downloads, like I was talking about with the drop of the meditations and whatnot. So that part was very intriguing to me. And then getting to play around with the different instruments and finding like what really called to me. And then that portion, the sound portion really kind of like opened up too, because I found myself just really being like, well, I got to get a gong. So I got a 36-inch gong. And then it was like, well, I need a little gong that I can like hear, so it's just like, it kind of like kept opening up to other things. And I think the first thing I actually started off with were my bowls, and then the gongs, and then, drums and all that. So I definitely love all the different sounds. I get to play them for my daughters too. My
Yes.
youngest, especially, like if I put my Tibetan bowls like on her tummy, or if I hold my practitioner bowl like over her head and I kind of do it. Sometimes she gets a little bit too much of the energy tickle,
Yeah.
But
The energy tickle.
but and then as far as the cards go, like really like the herbs, the cards, the crystals, like all my other tools, if you will, have just come through my spiritual practice, because I always say that like yoga was my gateway drug for my spiritual opening, and
Yeah.
like the floodgates for my soul, because I was like, oh, and it really made me curious about things. So going down that path, I then started, reading books about, witchcraft, and then started exploring that. And then I started reading books about herbalism, and then exploring that. And I really found that like my intuitive has been my strongest teacher.
Mhm.
So like with the herbs, especially, my husband, I've dragged him to herb stores with me before, and he's like, what are you getting? I'm like, I don't have a list. I go off of feeling. Like I look at what I'm being drawn to, and then I bring that home. And then I might not use it in that moment, but I know that I'm going to use it at some point because I'm going to be drawn to it. And I've literally had moments where I'll be in a meditation, I have something going on with me, and then I see, a herb, or I see, the name of it or whatever. And I'm like, what is that? What is that? And I'm like,
Yeah.
flower, what am I using that for? Like, and then I'll find it's like exactly what I'm needing in that time frame. And then with the Oracle and the tarot cards, like really that started off it started off with one deck that was also my gateway, because I am now a collector. I have over 100 decks.
Me
Um,
too. I hate to say it out loud, but I'm with you. Yes.
which, by the way, for those of you listening, Yolanda has the most gorgeous Oracle deck.
Oh,
You have
thank
to
you.
check it out. So, but yeah, so yeah, the decks, it was just like it started off as this curiosity with them, and I'm like, oh, I don't know, can I do this? And then, the trusting part again, and then getting these reads and being like, oh my gosh, and so it just kind of went from there. And then because I love artwork so much, that has made me be like, well, gotta have this deck,
Yes. Do you
So
have decks? I have to ask you because I do. I have, for example, there's one deck. I only did this one time, but there was this one deck that was so gorgeous that I bought two because I wanted to keep one almost like a collector's item, and then I used. But there are some decks I have that I'm like, I just don't want to mess them up because they're works of art to me, and I love them so much. Oh, it's a problem. But anyway, do you ever do that, or do you play with all of them?
No, I play with all of them. The only one that I had two decks of was because I made an oopsie, because at the time I really liked gilded edges. I don't do
Uh,
this anymore because I'm not willing to take a chance on them. But I really liked gilded edges, and I had a deck that wasn't lined. It was just regular white on the side. And I was like, well, I'm going to go ahead and paint it and do the Sharpie. And it bled through the cards, and I was so sad.
um,
Thankfully, it was a mass production deck, but still, it was a bummer. So, because there were certain cards that really had like heavy bleed through, and I was like,
yeah.
ah. So I was like, well, I got to get another one of those.
Oh wow. Oh, that is terrible. Yeah, it's funny you say that. So that's why, like on my deck, I had it printed with. Now this deck has been used so much it's not dark black anymore. But I had the sides black because at some point, I remember coming across people were doing that to their decks, and I was like, well, I don't want you to have to go through all that. Just it'll come black. You don't have to try to paint them in.
I gotta say too, I love your finish on the decks too.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
almost like that rose. I don't know what you call it. If it's almost like a rose petal finish. Like it's
Yes, it's soft. Yeah,
yeah,
but they're also really thick. Yeah,
yeah,
anyway, that's
yeah.
like a whole nother rabbit hole. But I'm so glad you're sharing this because it's a beautiful tie-in to what it is you're going to be offering. So I've been so excited to share with everyone here on Reiki Radio these beautiful souls, just like Serena, who are going to be sharing with you more. You can learn from her, learn more about her journey, and she's going to be sharing on Awakening Airwaves, her own show called Conscious Consumption. And as you can hear, she has a lot to share. So, could you talk a little bit about what the podcast will be about?
Yeah. So I wanted to share and have something that was really focused on mindful living. So exploring the spiritual energy with what we're consuming, as far as whether it's something that we're listening to, something that we're reading, the media, TV, like what we're buying, what's in our environment that we're living in. And then how does that affect our energy field? How is that affecting us and our spirituality and our magical sense too? So not just looking at spirituality, but also does it light us up and make us feel magical? So
Right.
like really looking at these different aspects. Because what I was really like thinking about too is just, more mindful choices so that it is reaching our kind of higher self, but then also like where we're living today, we consume so much.
Hmm.
And it feels like at times almost like we're in the passenger seat of our soul's life and soul experience versus driving and creating and making things happen. So I wanted to have something where I could share inspiring things that maybe help people grow or help people, inspire them to create something.
Yeah.
So they can be in the driver's seat of their own, soul experience. And, some of the episodes having little tips and tricks and things that you could work into your everyday life because I'm a busy mama. I know how it is. So just finding things that are approachable too and accessible to everyone. So yeah.
I'm so excited to hear all the things you're going to share because it is true. You are busy. But speaking of that, I'm so glad you brought that up because I wanted to ask you about as well. When I first met you, you were working like regular traditional 9 to 5. At the same time, you were coming into the space of starting to curate these beautiful tent events, which you have to tell people about in a second. Like, send me a picture so I can post it so people can see. I'm still amazed at the way you design things aesthetically, just so beautiful and warm. But tell us, please, about these tent sound healings that you curated. But you did all of this while working and being a full time mom. And aside from that, I remember you learning how to roller skate with one of your daughters, and you were also like going to crystal shows, trying to figure out which crystals to find, and right. So I'm just saying that to say, everyone listening, there's so much you're really going to learn from Serena and her path and what has worked and what hasn't and all the things. But you also ended up transitioning out of that 9 to 5 to take the risk on getting in the driver's seat of your own life, as you say. So could you tell us about the tents and then tell us about that transition?
So as far as the tents go, so the tents I think kind of came into fruition because I always kind of had that party planning and party creation portion in my background. I used to have these really crazy elaborate parties for my oldest daughter when she was young. And I made all the decorations. So I literally would buy like these huge backdrops and everything for photo booths and all this stuff, and create the floral backgrounds and all that.
Mhm.
And then I did work as a wedding planner for a very, very short amount of time. So that party portion of the creation always was in my background. Also, I love creating sacred spaces. So that's like a huge thing, which I didn't share earlier, but my altar space, I change out with the seasons. And that's something, and I sometimes do it downstairs too, because I have two spaces, one in my room that I share with my daughter. And then the other one that I have downstairs, I kind of have in my kitchen. Sometimes I'll kind of explore different things there with my altar space. But anyway, so going into the tent area, I had this idea of basically creating a space outside because I now have kiddos, and my youngest is 4 now, but at the time she was only, I think, a year or maybe a little less than a year old. And I wanted to be able to have a space where I could have people and be able to play my music, but then also have, shared space to, have discussions and things. So I purchased a bell tent and started creating these smaller event, experiences where I could have a sound bath, or I could do Reiki and a sound bath. And then I eventually started doing some herbal foot baths with them too. In my huge mother bowl, I have a Tibetan mother bowl that's gorgeous and just amazing. So started doing that. And then I also found that space became like another sacred space for me too, because when I wasn't sharing it with people, it really became like a space for me to go do my cards or go have time to myself outside and be able to hear the coyotes. I live in the desert, so being able to hear the owls or the coyotes was really magical too.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, so that's
That's incredible. Again, you guys are going to learn a lot from Serena, so be sure to listen to her on Awakening Airwaves. Her show will be called Conscious Consumption. I feel like from what you shared today, we could see why, right? There's so much really, truly that you have to offer, and I'm very excited that you said yes to doing that. So, what happened or what was going on with you at the time where you decided to say, let me see if I can follow my passion? And again, I know because I remember you going through this, that tug of war that so many people have of this is what I'm supposed to do. And yeah, so what really was going on for you? And then what was the catalyst that told you to take the leap?
well, I think there's a few parts to that. One thing is I felt like when I had my spiritual awakening, I had this very clear message of wanting to help people,
Mhm.
but I didn't have the path lined out for me, as you don't, right?
Right.
So I felt like I didn't really know how to jump off the hamster wheel. And I continued to work the same job. I was at that job for 15 and a half years before I left. I left there as I had, worked my way up in the company, but I was a client manager, project manager for landfill gas company. I was the only female non-engineer that was, had started off in that office, at the time. And so it was a big deal. So there was a small portion of me too that felt like I worked so hard getting into this position, but I knew it wasn't my soul's calling. I knew I was miserable. I was still working crazy hours. I had ended up going down in time. So I ended up being only like 35 hours a week towards the end. But up until like 10 months before I left, I was at like 55 hours a week. It was just crazy because I was the boss. So I got calls and texts all hours.
Yeah.
And it was just really difficult to try to, again, balance things. And I just felt like, why am I doing this? I know better. Like I already know where I need to be. I just don't know how to jump off and get there. And I think I was kind of making myself a little crazy because I worked remotely too. It felt like I was never able to detach from my workspace. So even when I was in the shower, I had, stuff going on with work and what I needed to call and what, you know, um, people I needed to, give calls and work with. And it just felt really overwhelming at the time. And so what ultimately ended up happening is I had some health stuff going on with me at the time. And my stress levels were so much so that I felt like my chest was just in this like, when you take a towel and you twist it and twist it and twist it, I felt like that's how my chest was. I
Wow.
felt like I couldn't take in a full breath. And then I had had a mammogram done, they referred me out to go get an MRI. And then from there, they were like, oh, we gotta do a biopsy for you. There's some stuff that we see and we're not sure. And so that, of course, had the wheels spinning. I'm like thinking, crap, I can't, like, this can't be the path right now. What am I doing? I'm creating this because of the stress. Like, I felt that. I felt like I was creating all this because I wasn't able to manage my stress and manage, how to jump off that plane, if you will. And then also during that time, I was dealing with stuff with my oldest too. So there was the stresses of, what she was going through. She was going through a very difficult time in life during that time, with some interactions at school and whatnot. So I was really blessed to come out of that MRI with nothing wrong. And the biopsy was all cleared and everything. But I did have that feeling of I need to make a change because otherwise I'm going to just like end up driving myself to a disease. Because when we look at diseases, it's when energy stops in the body.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we don't have it and it gets blocked, we create dis-ease, disease in the body. And so I knew that I was going to go down that route if I didn't do something. So I ended up leaving my job of 15 and a half years. I did have some support, financial support, that really made it possible for me. So it wasn't like I just up and left my family hanging. But that was really still difficult, even knowing, because I was so scared that it's like, what if I screw up? What if I fail? I had all these what ifs in my head. And then, because I had worked so long at that company, but also because I had felt like, what if I'm not able to create something and then everyone sees that I fail?
Yes, yes.
So that was really scary for me. And I honestly, I want to say it took like several months before my chest started to loosen up because I felt like I was still holding all the tension in my shoulders and my chest. So it took a while before I was able to like really loosen up. But like, I just felt like I was still, when I left, I had stayed on as a consultant for the company because they wanted to be able to, give me a call when they needed to ask questions or whatever, regarding contracts and different things. And I said, okay. And I had, let them know my conditions for that. They called me a couple times, but I still was trying to set, boundaries. And then finally I was like, I can't do this. Like, even just knowing that I'm tied as a consultant, I need to cut that cord, that energetic. I need like a clean cut. I need a separation here. Like, I can't, even if it's on my terms, I'm not going to do it. Right. And so I went ahead and did that. It felt like I could breathe a little bit better again. So it felt like each little decision that I made to separate myself from that, I was able to breathe a little better. Yeah. And then, it was a scary time though, because I felt like there was a long period of time that I felt like I was waiting for the other shoe to drop. It's like, is this real? Like, am I going to be forced to go back? Like, am I, so it was just a lot of that, but leaving and making that decision to leave and then where I'm at and where I'm going, I feel like is much different. I'd also like to share to I feel like the last 2-3 months has been huge. I started to really ask the universe and ask source to use me where they want as far as serving and helping. And not knowing what it looks like, which is, of course, scary.
Yeah.
But, here we are today. Like, I get to, have this call with you and these amazing opportunities. And like I told you, I think a couple of weeks ago, I'm just saying yes to the universe. So what comes up, I'm saying yes, and it might be scary, and that's okay. And it might be an oopsie where I fall, and that's okay. I'm just learning as I go, and I'm going with it. So, yeah.
I'm so excited for you, and I'm really proud of you. I mean, it's incredible to watch people take risk, but also more than that, really give themselves permission to follow their heart's calling, even when it can be scary and it doesn't make sense. And there are a lot of considerations. So I'm glad you even pointed out too. You're like, there were things set up in life that gave you the opportunity to explore this. Like, you weren't just being totally abandoning like all of life's responsibilities, but there was an opportunity presented. And even at that stage, you said yes. And that in of itself is a huge message and a really big part of your story. And I don't know if y'all caught it, but she mentioned a couple of times being a Virgo. So believe me, when she
You know, I got a lot of Virgo in my chart.
and she really, I mean, contemplates back and forth. Like she chews on stuff. This isn't, even though you're saying yes and it sounds kind of like spontaneous, you are a very thoughtful person. We'll say it that way. But I have to tell you, Serena, I'm so glad it's been wonderful knowing you these last few years, however long it's been. It's been incredible watching your journey and learning about all the things that you find interest in, the herbs, the crystals, the sound baths, like all the things. It's been incredible. So I'm so thankful that you agreed to come and share your work and what you've been learning, even what may come up as new curiosities for you on conscious consumption. So everyone, be sure to check out Serena's new show on Awakening Airwaves. You can find the links down in the show description, but also support this beauty and her work. Her personal website is soleil-2-moon.com. The link to her site is in the show description as well. And can you let us know what is the best way to find you on Instagram?
Yeah. So Instagram is the_magic and it's MAGICK
Mhm.
for within. And I'm not super great about posting all the time, but I'm
Yeah.
trying to. So yeah.
Well, maybe with us having our eyeballs on you, it will encourage you a little bit more. Yeah. So thank you so much, my love. Is there anything else you want to share before we go today?
No, I just have a super grateful heart for you, Yolanda, and our time together through the years for this episode, but also for everything that you've done through the years. Yolanda's an amazing coach, and I'm so grateful to you. So I just want to say
Listen,
thank
we're not gonna get all mushy. Thank
you.
you, my love. And no, thank you so much for saying that. And for everyone, be sure, go to all the links down in the show description now. We will see you soon. Thank you, Serena. Okay, beautiful alchemist. First, I want to thank Serena for coming to share with us today on Reiki Radio, but I also want to thank Serena for contributing on Awakening Airwaves, and you will also find her work on the new Reiki class website, which will launch on June 11th. So, everyone, thank you, thank you, thank you for being here. Don't forget, go wherever you're listening to Reiki Radio now, look up Awakening Airwaves. Follow the podcast. Go to YouTube, Awakening Airwaves. Follow the channel, and there will be so much more content coming your way. I cannot wait to share with you. But for now, I do thank you for being here with me, and you can learn more about my work at theenergeticalchemist.com. You can also follow me on Instagram at Reiki Radio. When you go to my website, be sure to sign up for Alchemical News because there is so much coming up that I can't wait to share with you, even on top of the platform, on top of the ReikiClass.com, on top of Awakening Airwaves. We have Oracle School opening up. One of my most popular classes, Intuitive Mastery, I haven't taught live in years, but because of the request, I will be teaching that live this year in November. So there's a lot coming up, and I hope you'll join me. You can learn more on my website. That's all for now, my loves. I will see you very soon, and remember to always journey in love.